It needs to be said, there was never any need for feminism at all. Oh, there were things that needed to be fixed, but there are always things that need to be fixed, and the nation fixed those things. More importantly, men fixed them. But why is that important? Simple, because men didn't have to fix those things. But men did remedy the things that were inequalities in the lives of men and women, and that proves that men, in general, have always been acting in good faith as it pertains to women.
This is Dr. Avenir. This is Dr. Avenir.
It needs to be said, there was never any need for feminism at all in the first place. Oh, there were things that needed to be fixed, but there are always things that need to be fixed. And the nation fixed those things. More importantly, men fixed them. But why is that important? Simple, because men didn't have to fix those things. Remember, men were pretty much dominant over women through most of recorded history. It was necessary to keep the wolf away from the door and such. But men remedied the things that were inequalities in the lives of men and women, and that proves one simple thing. It proves that men, in general, have always been acting in good faith as it pertains to women the whole time. Which means that today, this whole notion of toxic masculinity is just a load of hooey. In fact, the traits normally associated with masculinity are all very good things indeed. Things like strength, courage, self-sacrifice, hard work, perseverance, endurance, nobility, wisdom, intelligence. These are the things generally associated with masculinity, and that are certainly associated with the best of men. They're things that characterize most men at most times of their lives. And they're exemplified by the men who, despite great peril to themselves, for example, run back into the burning building to bring out the family pet and the child. And they're the things that describe the billions of men who perfectly selflessly sacrifice their lives in wars to protect their families at home. Men are extraordinarily magnificent creatures. Are some of them jerks, clods, lowlifes, and bastards? Yep, but those are a small minority. So back to these things that feminism originally needed to remedy. What were they? Well, women needed to have the right to vote, the right to own property, things like that. They were always allowed to work, and even positions of leadership and prestige were not denied to women. Did you know, for example, that the first woman was elected to the National Academy of Sciences in 1848? Well, surely she was an educated woman, so education was not being denied to women. But things like the right to vote and to own property were denied women, and men made the reforms necessary to correct those imbalances. As for the other things, positions of prestige, working, and all that, the limitations against women in those cases were all societal pressures. People, men in particular, changed their collective minds, and those pressures went away. Now women make up nearly 60% of all college students, so that's not a problem for women. And there are, obviously, no limits to what women can achieve or attain in corporate America or in politics. And I would assert to you right now that the original problems, the vote and ownership of property and such, would all have been remedied without feminism entirely. Why? Because society was headed in that direction. American society has always headed in a direction in which a group who complains about something generally gets its wish, and not too long after having made the first claim. Ask gays. Ask the transies. Honest gays and transies will admit to you and me today that they really don't have any real problems to complain about as it pertains to being themselves in America. If they're honest, that is. And frankly, the group that has it the best in the world today is women in the Western world. In general, men as a group have always done the right thing. And yes, of course, there are plenty of instances where individual men have been awful, and even where groups of men have espoused bad ideas and such. But in general, men have always done the right thing. Nowadays, and for the past several generations, it's been the women who have been engaging in sexual harassment and abuse. Ask any man who's been through a divorce where there are kids involved. Women have been receiving vastly and unfairly favorable treatment from the courts for decades. This overly harsh treatment of men has frequently left them impoverished and deprived of the right to see their children. Women don't understand, but there is nothing more important to a man than his family. Men frequently risk their very lives for their families, and to have that stolen away from him is devastating to a man. And that has happened in millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of cases. In each of these cases, the woman involved could have seen to it that it didn't happen, but that rarely occurs. After the first reforms were won, feminism really needed to go away. It no longer had any legitimate reason to persist. Instead, though, it morphed into a toxic, hostile, grotesque, baby-killing, man-hating, misshapen leftist creature. Men have known that for a long time, but the masculine culture is such that a man simply goes to work. He always does, and he always has. Now, though, women are realizing that feminism is nothing but a poisonous disease. And now that that has happened, feminism is doomed. Because women have the time to do something about it. And when you tick off women, you will hear about it. And that will doom feminism. Thank goodness.